Welcome everyone to today's session. We are going to be taking a look at how to optimize constituent services for state and local government and how our Dynamics first-party workloads can be augmented with Power Apps and vice versa, and how we can leverage both of them together to elevate our business solutions today. So next one, John, we would love to provide a event today that is welcoming to everyone. So we ask that everyone assist in providing a welcoming and safe environment. We do bring 3 of these sessions to our customers each month. So if you have a topic that you would like us to present on in the future, go ahead and drop that in the chat and I'll capture those and bring those to the team to consider in our schedule. The next one, John, if we minimize the background noises, we're gonna keep the lines muted today. If we have time at the end, we'll unmute lines and open it up for live Q&A as well. During the session, please go ahead and ask your questions via the chat though, and we'll get those answered for you right away. And then lastly, we do send out email follow-ups to everyone that registered, whether you attended or not. And that'll come from myself, Deb Victor, and that'll include the recording and the deck that's being used today so that you can take a look at that as well. If you don't wish to be on that distribution going forward, just email me back and I'll take you off that list. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to John Nelson and Kelly Kaysen, who are your presenters today. Thank you guys for bringing this topic to our customers. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay, first of all, I'll get on video and say hi to everyone. I'm glad you could all make it. Yeah, I'm going to start off with a presentation, and then Kelly's going to jump into a demonstration for us. We are going to talk today about really how to harness the combined Power Apps and Power Platform with Dynamics 365 to kind of make those customer engagements even more effective. To get started, we had a couple goals that we wanted to have available and out there for this particular event. The first and foremost is we want you to realize that the Power Platform is there to extend Dynamics 365. So if you're a Dynamics 365 user, the Power Platform are all the tools that you would use to extend it. So all of those same skill sets are available. Similarly, that Dynamics 365 can enhance a Power Platform case management system. So the idea is if you're going to build a case management solution with the Power Platform, just recognize the different capabilities we're going to talk about today that could really overall deliver a more complete solution or an assisted solution for your end customers. The next item I think is kind of important as well, which is the idea that Dynamics 365 customer service is a Power Platform solution. Meaning Microsoft utilized the Power Platform to build Dynamics 365 customer service. So there's nothing hidden in there. There's nothing magical. You could go build it yourself, but the question is do you want to make that investment when there's something already available that you could use out of the box? And then last but not least, we're going to talk about how you can improve case management experience for both your, your caseworkers as well as for your citizens. So that's the goal. That's what we want you to get out of this for today. A little bit of an agenda. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about how Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform fit together. Then we're going to jump into a modernization scenario. So it's a user scenario that I've come across in the past, and we're going to kind of talk through how to enhance it. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into some of those Dynamics 365 features that could really enhance Power Apps. And then last but not least, Kelly's going to bring forward that demonstration so you can see all the different pieces and how they all work together. So to get started, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about a story. The idea here is we've all worked with Legos. We know what Legos are. We know how they work. We know that they're different colors, different sizes, different thicknesses, different things that can be built with them. However, we also know that all of the pieces just fit together. So the idea here is we're going to talk about a lot of Lego pieces today. right? Whether you're building the first time where you're going to build a tower as a 3-year-old and see how big you can make it, whether it's going to be a house that you want to build as a 4-year-old, whether it be, you're, you know, 25 and you're out there trying to build the Death Star using your Legos. It's all good. And the idea here is that we want to basically have all of those pieces available to you so you can see how you can build and extend different sizes, different shapes, different places to go. Okay, so that's the goal. Let's jump into here. So first and foremost, let's talk about the overall infrastructure, right? So from a cloud infrastructure standpoint, we start at the bottom. We have identity and security management, compliance, all of those things are part of our Azure platform and the infrastructure. Then we have all of our Azure core services. Then we talk about our development tools, whether they be the Power Platform, whether they be elements of Copilot Studio, or even the developer tools. These things all work together. Then on top of that, you can see that Dynamics 365 is really built on top of that Power Platform, much in the same way that we have other things like the Microsoft 365 with the Office components and team components. Now, at the very top of there, where we get to industry-specific components, what we're really talking about are your solutions. So your solutions can use any and all of these capabilities all pulled together. But today, we're just going to focus predominantly on those Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform right there in the middle. And I'll just go ahead and highlight that real fast right here. So we're going to focus on these elements. So the next question is, what is Dynamics 365? Well, it's not one thing. What it is a multiple of first-party applications that are designed to meet business needs. Now, you may have many of your business needs already met with other solutions. So human resources or finance or supply chain, those may be already kind of pre-addressed. There may be others that you may not need, like sales, that doesn't really fit your business, or field service. But there may be ones like customer service that do fit your business very well. So the idea here is that we want to recognize first that the Power Platform is the tool set that brings all of these things together, allows you to extend them, and many of them are actually built directly on top of that, directly on top of the Power Platform. So with that said, we're going to focus today on customer service. I'll even throw in a little bit of field service and contact center while we're doing it, but the idea here is predominantly it's going to be on customer service. So first and foremost, let's take a look at this. One, you've seen all of those Power App components previously. So the idea is all of those things, you've seen that slide, you've seen all those different pieces. Well, the idea here is now we have Dynamics Customer Service sitting on top of it. It's actually a culmination of using all of these pieces together, right, in one cohesive fashion built by Microsoft, but then you can actually then do all of your extensions on top of it as well. So the idea is that if you want to bring forward your own Power Automate and add to it your own Power App, your own Canvas app, a different Copilot Studio, all of these things are available to you. If you need to extend Dataverse, extend it with Power BI for reporting. Again, these are all things that are available to you. And I don't know why my build didn't work. Let me try this again. Okay, that's better. So from a building standpoint, let's talk about it from a Dataverse perspective at first. So the idea is we have an environment, it's got Dataverse. Now the question is where does Dynamics fit? Well, it's installed like any other solution directly on top of the platform. So the idea is we have Dataverse, you install Dynamics 365 for customer service. Now let's say you have another Power App that you want to build as well. So you have another solution that you build, it's a Power Platform solution, you got some flows. The idea here is I can actually put that right alongside it. I don't even need to use any components of Dynamics 365 customer service. Maybe what we're doing is managing our locations. We want to understand all of the buildings that we have, the different locations, both public ones and ones that are, more secured, but we want to understand that. Next thing you know, you want to go ahead and actually build a Power App directly on top of customer service. Maybe you want to give a view for the executives to kind of see that information. Or maybe you want something to be available for remote users that are maybe out there in the field or driving around. But the idea is you can build this Power App directly on top of customer service and leverage it. Similarly, you could build a Power App that actually is leveraging pieces of both that location data as well as the actual customer service data. Maybe what we're doing is utilizing those customers to see how many of them are actually coming into those locations, to better understand how those two fit together and who's actually visiting us on site. and we can actually bring that data together. Last but not least, if we want to have a live presence out there, we can actually do that as well. The idea here is that what we want to do is connect via phone, connect via voice, connect via SMS, connect via chat. So the idea is all of these things can be brought forward in a contact center that's actually leveraging all these same pieces. Don't forget, we have Power Automate, Power Pages, and Copilot Studio that really cover off on all of this. So they can either stand alone or they can actually be across any and all of these solutions. So what are we really talking about here? We're really talking about all of these pieces being a set of tables, views, forms, charts, dashboards, apps, and then of course the business processes that are associated with it. So really those are all of the pieces that any one of these solutions kind of take into account. So it's one way to look at how they all get combined together. We can also take a look at it a little bit differently. So let's take a look at it from a use case scenario. So here's a user scenario. It is property assessment appeal. So the idea is you get your property tax assessment, you see it, you realize that it went up way too much, you don't like it, right? Is it because property values are going up? You want to complain about it. So the typical way to complain about it is you either send in a letter with your parcel information saying it's too high, I want you to go ahead and put in an appeal for me, or you maybe have to fill out a form. Well, you got to find the form, download the form, either fill it out by hand or maybe it's a printable PDF, and then it gets emailed or mailed in, right? And then the next thing you know is it's in there in that internal system. Well, they're going to have to double data enter that. So even though you already filled it out, they're going to have to make sure that it gets filled in. There could be mistakes made. They could put in the wrong parcel number, things of that nature. They could then, have, there's no customer engagement. You don't really get an acknowledgement. You kind of mail it in and hope for the best. And then finally in the mail, you'll get a determination that your assessment's too high, or I'm sorry, your assessment's just fine, right? But you really don't get any sort of interaction. So let's talk about a modernized solution. What does a modernized solution look like? Well, you're going to see some of these pieces immediately available. First, right, we're going to want to have a form put out there on a Power Page. So we can start collecting this information in a more, structured manner, right? The idea is taking that form data that we had on the PDF and actually putting it out there and making it available so that people can actually authenticate, sign in, create an account, enter in their data, etc. We could even have a co-pilot out there to kind of help them with instructions on, what types of appeals can go in there, things of that nature. Now, we don't want to get rid of the old process, so we still have the stuff that's being mailed and emailed. So what the idea here is we're going to use Power Automate with AI Builder to go ahead and do document processing. This document processing will, again, allow it to become an electronic format that's more structured, and we're going to bring it into our Power App. The good news is we now have notifications going out, letting people know that their information's been received. They can look at status on the portal. Right? They can get, we now have business process that we can establish in Power Apps. This is a great solution. We now have a complete solution to kind of deliver to the customer. However, what if the customer doesn't know which form or how to do the form or where it is or why their browser isn't acting correctly or how to reach out or how to find answers about which form they should be filling out? These things can be very complex. Maybe you are in a special needs category and your assessment should be different because of that. If you're in that special needs category, how do you identify that? Is that the regular process? Do businesses and residential do it the same way? And these are the questions that come to mind. So the next thing you know is you look at it as a kind of a fully envisioned property assessment appeal. Now, it doesn't look like a lot has been added here, but a fair amount has. We have all of those Dynamics customer service components that have been added. First, at the core, we have Dynamics customer service with Copilot. What that means is your agents have the ability to use Copilot to look into the knowledge articles to get the answers that they need. They can leverage teams to reach out to people within the context of Dynamics to be able to get answers to questions. Some of these questions that are coming in. These questions could be coming in via Copilot. They could be coming in via an online tool like online technical assistance. They could be coming in via the phone. They could be coming in via email. There's a variety of ways that we get these questions, but now the idea is we can do case management through online technical assistance to answer their questions and get them directed to the right form that they need to fill out. Now, if you notice, nothing else changed. We're still using Power Pages. We're still using Power Automate. We're still using AI Builder. We're still bringing in those elements into the customer service solution, and we're still going to have those same business processes. The biggest difference now, the biggest improvements are going to be having FAQs, having those knowledge articles available on the Power Pages and in the chatbot, having online customer assistance to ask questions, and then finally, enhance customer service productivity with Copilot, meaning allowing your agents, allowing your caseworkers, allowing your customer service representatives, allowing them to have Copilot to assist in them getting answers. So let's look at some of those key benefits that I was just talking about. So this is all using your Power Platform knowledge. This is all using your low-code configuration. We have not changed any of that. This is all using that same the same knowledge, skills, and abilities that you already have to customize the session with a series of improvements and increased capabilities. So first, we're going to talk about improved case management, the ability to use the case table and the elements and the value of the case table. Then we're going to talk about improving that caseworker experience with the embedded copilots that are available in Dynamics. Then we're going to talk about improvements in the caseworker productivity. We're going to talk about intelligent and unified routing, right? Or routing those cases or even routing the appeals as well. And then last but not least, on the improvement side, we're going to look at improved collaboration. And this is going to be a way to look at embedded teams and how Teams chat can really make case management and caseworkers' efforts more of a team sport, allowing all of these pieces to fit together. These are the new Legos we're talking about here. Now we're going to get back to increased customer self-service. Now, we don't want to say that our customers are going to be 100% self-sufficient. That's really what Power Apps modernization is. Sometimes they have questions. So we want to be able to allow them to do outreach as well, right? And then last but not least, expansion. If you need to go to a contact center, if you need to grow into something that's going to have live chat or live voice, this is the direction that you need to go because you're going to need to engage with your citizens a little bit differently. So let's jump into these. We'll get a little bit more specific. First of all, the value of the case table. It's not just the table. You could build your own case table with Power Platform, but unified routing is something that you wouldn't have. Similarly, there's no service level agreements or KPIs. So the idea of actually showing exactly what your progress is, being able to look at your caseworkers and understanding the progress you have. There's the ability to have automated case creation. So the idea is if you want to have something come in via email and then it automatically creates a case, these are other things that are super important. We also can't forget about knowledge creation. And the idea that knowledge is one of these things that's going to help you answer these questions quickly. And then, of course, getting into a couple other fun things, similar cases. Similar cases are important because if you start to see the same problem happening all the time on your website, maybe a browser issue or something of that nature, you can address it quickly. You can start to identify where people are running into problems. None of that has to do with the appeals form. It has to do with the way the application is functioning. So it allows you to provide that additional case management of those issues that are processed through the system. Last but not least, I said I'd mentioned field service. We have the ability to do automated creation of service scheduling. And what this means is if for some reason, I'll use the example of a pothole that's out there. Someone lets you know that there's a pothole. Someone lets you know that a traffic light is out. The idea is that you can, from that case, go ahead and actually create a service request, create a work order, and actually schedule that work order so that somebody can go and respond to it quickly. So just realize that there's plenty of extensions here to take it in different directions depending on your business need. Now we're going to jump into the embedded Copilot features. Now I know this is the fun stuff. This is the new stuff that's just coming out now, but there's a lot of important elements that are coming out and it's already pre-built for you. You don't have to go to OpenAI. You don't have to go to Copilot Studio. These are embedded directly in there and you can configure them to your needs. The first is Copilot Knowledge Search. Can't forget about that. The ability to use natural language to get to the knowledge article that you're looking for. Similarly, we have summary information. We have a case summary. We have highlights on the timeline. We can also do other things as well, like allow for knowledge articles to be created. Um, having the conversation summary if you decide to have a contact center, and even email assistance for creation. So jumping into these and highlighting them a little bit more, just from a visual standpoint, let's first talk about using generative AI to basically ask questions to get answers for knowledge. This is great, especially in a live scenario where you can ask the question of Copilot, get the answer, know where it's posted out there on the web, and then be able to share that with your customer in real time. Similarly, we're talking about summaries. Well, I don't know about you. Every once in a while, my boss will ask me, hey, what's going on with that particular case? What's happening? So the idea is I want to be able to generate a quick summary and get it off. That way, I don't have to write it up. I just basically grab the summary information and send it over there. Or I get asked to join the case, and now I can get quickly caught up to speed on it. In that same regard, we can talk to it from the timeline perspective, get the highlights that are going on the timeline to show that you've finished the tasks that need to be finished, or to get a sense of what's already been done so you're not duplicating effort. Now we're going to talk about intelligent routing. So intelligent routing is important because we're not talking about simple rules. We're talking about really advanced ways to kind of get the right information to the right caseworker at the right time. So when we jump into this, first, we have our traditional routing. So traditional routing is customer comes in, maybe it's an email that's creating the case. Now all of a sudden there's a bunch of rules. If the case is of this type, it's going to go to this queue. Then people can either pick off the queue or it's assigned to somebody. Very straightforward. Now, imagine if you could take into account some additional capabilities, specifically around multiple channels. These could be, even social media channels where information is coming in, phones are coming in, chat is coming in, and the idea is now you're looking at, the sentiment of the individual, the classification of it, the types of skills that might be needed relative to the classification of that case that's coming in. Then, from a routing standpoint, we're going to information like what are the hour types of cases are they working on, what skill sets do they have, if they have the right skill sets, or maybe the person that's perfect isn't available, so we get the person that's got the next best skills to address it. The idea is now we're getting it to the right person in the right framework at the right time, because we're going to know if they're currently available to receive cases. Now let's talk about Teams Chat. This is another one that's also super valuable. And we're going to talk about it from really three different perspectives. One, that it's embedded. Two, that we can see the presence of individuals to be able to create new chats. And then finally, what if you don't know what resources you're looking for and how can they help? So in the first one here, what we're talking about is the idea that Teams is embedded as a sign pane on the within the Dynamics 365 screen. The idea of this one is that instead of having to go over to Teams and create a chat and then come back here and copy answers back and forth, I now have the ability to have it embedded. I can reach out to people directly, and I can make really case management a team sport. And what that means is if I know that, Kelly's the guy that I need to reach out to say, hey, Kelly, what do I do? I don't know the answer to this question. I know Kelly's an expert. Hey, Kelly, let me know what's going on. Okay. Kelly can then respond, and the case gets attached, or sorry, the chat gets attached to the case. So now your team's information, that chat that you did back and forth, ends up being part of the case record moving forward. Next, presence. Here's the idea that, okay, well, I can see that so and so is already working on their case. So maybe they can help me out with this issue that I'm running into. And maybe they can help to clarify maybe one of the previous timeline events that happened. So I can either reach out to them, or if there's more than one people, reach out to the group and start to ask them a question all up. So now the idea is I can see who's working on it at the same time and making that team sport something that I can engage with them immediately. Last but not least is this concept of swarming. Swarming is the idea that I have a special needs request that came in. I don't know who the right person is. I know that we have a special needs group that's out there that I can reach out to. So what I do is I say, hey, special needs team, can somebody help me? I don't need to know who the people are. What I'm doing is selecting that skill set, and that skill set will have people identified to it. And then they will then interact with me and see who's picked it up. So for them, it'll show up on Teams. For me, I'm staying directly in Dynamics 365. or I guess I should say just a model-driven app. Now let's look at knowledge management. Knowledge management is probably the strongest way to kind of facilitate customer self-service. It also integrates directly into Copilot, which is a huge benefit to start using it. The idea here is that first you have that customer self-service capability. The idea that your Power Pages site has a set of knowledge articles or FAQs that are immediately available and searchable out there. The idea that you can set it up so that Copilot out there in your public website can actually direct them to these if for some reason they'd rather use generative language than just the search criteria. Last but not least, if they're in a live chat scenario, you can even give them a link, help to direct them to the right place. But many times, what happens if you don't even have the right article? Well, sometimes the important thing is that the agent can go automatically create one. So first, they have the same search capabilities that you have. They have the same generative AI capabilities to look it up. From that standpoint, if they see something that's not there, or if they do see something that's there, they can actually first rate it. The public can even rate it. They can then search the repository. They can link it to the actual record, whether it be a chat or an email or directing somebody to the right place. Now, similarly, they can use it to actually create the articles as well. So if there's an article that has not been created for this particular event, you can create it and start to run it through the process of approval. Finally, we get to expansion. Now, expansion is the contact center. Now, we have, I'm sure, an entire presentation that we could go through on this for multiple hours. But really, the concept here is live interaction with your folks. So the idea is I want to have a live phone call. I want an IVR connectivity to be able to have them call in, use an IVR copilot to kind of access us. I want to have the ability to use a chatbot on the public facing website that then flows into live chat. It's the idea that I want my workers to actually have enhanced capabilities from an analytics standpoint or with agent scripting or the idea of being able to interact more directly or workload management. So these are the other things that we can do to develop a full contact center on top of the solution as well. So in summary, we had those four things that we had as a goal. Number one, right? The Power Platform can extend Dynamics 365. What that means is that you can actually build a Power App on top of it or leverage a Power App in conjunction with another Power App and Dynamics to bring forward something even more complete. Second, Dynamics 365 with the elements I just talked about and those capabilities, those can actually bring forward and enhance a Power Platform case management solution. Third, Dynamics 365 is a Microsoft built first party Power App, right? So therefore you can leverage all of your skills and abilities from the Power Platform to then use Dynamics. Last but not least, Dynamics 365 is there to help with caseworker productivity. Customer engagement productivity in some ways as well, but caseworker productivity, I hope you saw that in the presentation. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. And Kelly, you're going to do the demonstration.
Sounds great. Thanks, John. I'm going to take over sharing if you don't mind. And if you can just validate when you can see my screen, that'd be great.
We got you.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate that overview. So hopefully I'm going to do my best to encapsulate some of the different things that he shared, right? So just to give you a quick overview of the journey that I'll be sharing, we'll be looking at a citizen who is recently, they're a disabled veteran and they realize that they can get access to some appraisal exemptions. So now they're on their local government site looking for some of these forms that they need to fill out. And so two of the scenarios that we'll see is our citizen will navigate to the website and they will engage with the website itself, looking for information, looking for answers through FAQs and knowledge articles. And in addition to that, we'll show a live chat interaction as well. So the two components that we'll be showing as an extension of the Power Platform, Power Pages as our portal website, as well as our live chat will show a little bit of a Copilot Studio omni-channel type of interaction where we're actually engaging in a live chat scenario. both of those interactions considered, records, right, will be classified in some fashion, right? What is this person reaching out about? And on the back end, through unified routing and some different dynamics capabilities, we'll show you how you can classify these records and ensure that they are created and routed to the appropriate queue and assigned to agents and employees who have the capacity and the skill set to work on these different records, right? And so ultimately, once that record is in the hands of the agent, we'll show you how they can work from the interface of Dynamics to leverage some of the different tools that John was talking about to actually resolve these conversations and resolve these cases. So let's take a peek at it. So straight away, as our citizen, we've navigated to our state government's website and we're looking for those appraisal exemption forms. We find a knowledge article, but not an uncommon scenario. It has some information, but it has a separate link that takes us to a website to actually find the different forms. And so I live in Dallas, so I just pulled my local website just to see their version of this. And this is not uncommon where there's a lot of different forms. There's a lot of different text. And as a disabled veteran, it could be very difficult, depending on the disability, to actually locate the form that you need and do what you need to do once you do find that form. So you may reach a point where you go, you know what? I could actually really use some help on this. Let me just create a quick inquiry and contact this agency to get some assistance, right? So now from our Power Pages portal, we have a form that ties directly into the data source that our customer service solution is built on. So we can send this query that has the subject of exemptions. And so that case subject in this scenario is going to be our key indicator for where this record needs to be routed and who it needs to be routed to and who can work on it, right? So we add a basic description in here. Hey, I'm a disabled veteran looking for the appropriate form. Can you just give me some assistance? So now that automatically creates a record and that serves as our intake process for getting this into the system. So now when we flip to Dynamics, we can see within our appraisal exemption queue, we have a new case created for that inquiry. And if we look at the underpinning of what just happened, within our admin center, we have an area where we can configure our routing. So when we look at our rule set for appraisal exemptions, we can dive into this and see that we have a couple different items, well, in this case, just one item related to this rule set. It's very basic, but when we go into it, we can see that we can define a specific rule criteria. We want our case subject to equal exemptions. And when that happens, we're going to route it to a queue. And the queue that we selected was the appraisal exemption queue. So now we know when those records are created with this criteria, it's only going to be routed to a queue in which agents that are a member of this queue can work on it. The second thing, now that we dive into the case record itself, in the center of the screen is we have SLA timers. So providing some type of service level and measuring different KPIs is an additional Dynamics functionality that's extremely beneficial to your service organization. So now when we look at setting up SLAs, similar to our rule set, we have a default SLA. Within this SLA, we have our associated items. So we have one for first response and one for the time that we resolve the case, right? So we're measuring how this KPI within our service organization. So at the top, we can see that this SLA needs to be applicable when case subject equals exemptions. So you can have different SLAs for different case types. And then a success condition is the first response is sent. That equals yes, right? Once the first response is sent, that is deemed successful. And we have warning and fail durations, warn after 1 hour, failure after 8 hours. And then even at the bottom there, you can see that we can configure actions. So this ties into Power Automate if you wanted to extend this service by sending reminders through Teams, email, push notifications, basically completing various actions based on the success and failure of this SLA for these case types. And so when you look at this form here, this is a glance into the plumbing of Dynamics and some of the things that exist that are extremely valuable. And the question becomes, could you rebuild this in a Power App? Well, anything is possible with time and money, as they say, but does it really make sense, right? This is all available to you out of the box to configure. So it's really, really beneficial in this type of scenario. So now we have two things that are occurring automatically underneath our service process, making this easier and making us work more efficiently, and also giving us better analytics on the back end. So now, naturally, as we start to work through our case, one of the first things we might do is just validate that we don't have access to any knowledge articles or information internally that our citizen might not have had on our website. So using the Copilot that is embedded within Dynamics with natural language, we can search our knowledge repository. So we may say something like appraisal forms and see what comes up. And to our surprise, we actually get a record that is the same as the one that we saw on the website. So there's no fancy knowledge that we have access to that our citizens don't. And so that's a challenge, right? When we open this knowledge article, it's really no more helpful to me in this case than it was our citizen. We'd have to manually go to that same link, find that form for our citizen on their behalf. So from here, as my teammate John likes to say, resolving cases is a team sport. We know that a lot of times we lean on our peers with the knowledge that they have. And one thing that we can show you is there is a Teams icon in the top right where you can actually launch a Teams chat directly from Dynamics. Quick note that this is something that's on the roadmap coming into GCC, so you could still navigate to Teams and send a message, but I just want to show you sort of where we're headed, and hopefully this will be available soon. But you could ping somebody through the Teams integration directly from Dynamics. So we locate our teammate Gabriel, who we know has experience with these types of things, maybe a member of the same queue as me, and say, hey, do you have that form handy? Boom, Gabriel sends it back to us. We now have that PDF document. And now from here, we can share it with our citizen. So we launch an email. We can use Copilot, an additional instance of Copilot within Dynamics that allows us to draft emails for us. So helps us kind of take care of some of that, menial tasks that take a bit of time. So now it drafts an email for us. Most of us have probably seen ChatGPT or Copilot do something similar, but now we have the form that our citizens looking for. So we can send that off and we can effectively say, hey, we got the right information to this citizen in a timely fashion. And we can deem this a successfully resolved case. So if we look at our email, it posts to the timeline just like any activity would, whether it's a phone call. But we can move through the series of steps and stages that to resolve this case and complete it and start to complete our wrap up. And one of the really nice things is we want to reuse this scenario again. So actually in the top right hand corner of our ribbon, we have a convert to knowledge article button. So straight away, we have a uniquely resolved case that we know is going to be helpful in the future. We don't want to have to ping our friends again in the future. So with one click, we can convert this and we can make a couple amendments to the title and the content and things like that. But we can convert this resolved case into a knowledge article to be used in the future, right? So as our case comes to completion, just to kind of highlight a couple other things in this case form that is unique to Dynamics, you do have your timeline highlight feature, which is going to highlight all of the activities we've performed. And we also have the case summary feature, which takes all of the data associated with the case and summarizes that for us. So if your boss goes, hey, what's going on with this case? In one click, you can copy that and share it with them. As we know, some of these cases are open for years at a time, right? So let me pause there. We are going to dive into the second scenario, which is actually a live chat, a live communication. And some of the routing that we configured for this one is a little bit different, and it's specific to the chat itself. This is going to be skill-based. So again, from within our Dynamics Admin Center, we can configure these things on the back end. So what we started by configuring was our skills, things that we can assign to our agents, right? So we have an English and Spanish skill set. Right here is an example of our appraisal form skill set. So we are assigning agents this skill and we're giving them a 5-star proficiency. So we know Gabriel can handle these. We also gave him the English skill set for this scenario. Now, when we dive into our chat channel, we can take the chat widget that's on our portal, dive into the behaviors and actually configure something called a pre-conversation survey. And this is just one example, but what you can do here is collect information straight out of the gate. What is your preferred language and what is your query about? With that information, we can already do so much with classifying this inquiry and routing it to the right queue and to the right people who are equipped to handle that type of conversation. So when we go into our chat work stream, this is where we can define our skill identification classification, if you will. So if we go into our rule set, of this, we'll see the two pre-conversation survey options. We'll dive into language to show you an example where we can see that our condition is the context item value, which is pulling from those questions. We can see language and query contains English, and then our output that it matches it against is our skill set, English 5-star proficiency. We did the same thing for the query as an appraisal form inquiry. And now when we navigate back to the Power Pages portal and we open our chat, we can see those two questions that we are asking straight out of the gate. Which language do you prefer? And what is your query about? Now, you could add a co-pilot in here to be your first line of defense to answer even more questions. But in this case, based on that information, we can just push live chat directly into an agent if that's what you wanted, if you wanted direct access based on some of the routing we configured. Now we're asking the same question. Can you help me with a disabled veteran exemption form? That chat comes through to Gabriel as it meets all of the criteria for his queue and his availability, or his capacity, as we say. And now Gabriel can work through this live chat. And if we check our knowledge base, we can see that brand new disabled veteran knowledge article that we just created based on our resolved case, which actually has a link to the form that we need. And we can send that link back off to the person who is now engaging us via our chat window, right? So just like that, they have direct access to the appropriate form that they need. So high level, there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage this technology. There's a lot of different ways that you can achieve what John was sharing, where you're extending dynamics, or on the back end, you're sort of fortifying some of the different Power Platform components and assets that you have available. But the idea is that they're meant to work well together, right? So if we recap what we saw, our citizen navigated to a portal, they found information on their own, they submitted a record through a form, they engaged through live chat, and that was powered by Power Pages as well as, Copilot Studio for some of those pieces. And once we had the intake of that information in those records, we could then classify them, route them, keep our system organized and efficient, and only sending records to people who are equipped to work on them, right? They're not passing them off to friends or escalating them or telling people, sorry, you reached the wrong department. We're kind of mitigating a lot of that in the beginning. And then ultimately, we resolved the case, we resolved the live chat conversation with some of the different tools that are available out of the box with Dynamics. So hopefully that was beneficial to give you a peek behind the curtain and sort of how you can see some of those tools collaborating together. They're really meant to be malleable and flexible to what you're trying to do. And John, I'll pass it back to you. You may want to reshare. I think some of my slides at the end of my deck are not quite updated with some of the changes you made.
Okay, I will do that then. Let's see. Give me 1 second. And it should be headed your way.
It's loading. There we go. Looks good.
Is it showing for you?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, because it's not showing for me. Well, that's a problem.
It took a moment for me as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll give it a minute. The first thing I wanted to say was coming back to the very beginning, all the pieces fit together. If you're a Power Platform, proficient user, the idea is the Power Platform can go ahead and actually meet your overall needs. The and then from that standpoint, you can go ahead and extend it with Dynamics 365. You can also then build on top of it. But the big thing here is that whether you're using Dynamics or the Power Platform, it's all the same skills and abilities. Those same features and things that you've learned in the Power Platform can be leveraged in Dynamics. And really, we're talking about puzzle pieces that you get to pick from and which services you feel that you're ready to deliver to your customers. And that's really it. And mine never did come through. So I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. And I'll get to the right slide. There we go. So that was the slide I was on. So just bringing everything back together, and then we'll jump over feedback. Deb, do you want to jump in here?
Exactly. Thank you, guys. That was a good understanding there of how they work better together. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.